Welcome in everybody to this horror movie review. We are reviewing the first Child's Play movie. I'm excited for it. I somehow have a feeling that maybe Dave and Jesse aren't super excited about reviewing this movie. There might be some fisticuffs for this one, but before we get into the actual MMA fight, let's get a synopsis from Dave here.
Child's Play, 1988, directed by Tom Holland. Gunned down by Detective Mike Norris, dying murderer Charles Lee Ray uses black magic to put his soul inside a doll named Chucky, which Karen Barclay then buys for her young son, Andy. When Chucky kills Andy's babysitter, the boy realizes the doll is alive and tries to warn people, but he's institutionalized. Now Karen must convince the detective of the murderous doll's intentions before Andy becomes Chucky's next victim. So this is a classic 80s slasher, and this really does fit right into the genre of classic 80s slashers. It's kind of campy, it's bloody, it's violent, and it hits all the 80s tropes. My issue with this movie, and I'm going to come right out and say it, as I have issues with this movie, is that it came out so late in the game of 80s slashers that this genre was already so watered down by that point. We had Black Christmas in the 70s already. We had 2 Texas Chainsaw movies at this time. We had 4 Halloween movies by the time this movie came out. We had 4 Nightmare on Elm Street movies by the time this movie came out. And we had 7 Friday the 13th movies by the time this movie came out. And this one didn't really change the game. They didn't really offer anything new. Sure, it's a doll that hasn't been done before, but who cares? I think that makes it less scary. The fact that it's a stupid little doll coming at you with a knife, just like, who cares? Like, it's not, I didn't find it scary. I thought it was corny every time the doll did anything because it looked goofy, and it kind of took me right out of it. So I had a lot of issues with this movie. It's not the worst movie I ever saw. It had some pretty cool kill scenes and some pretty cool actors. Not that the acting was anything great, but it was cool seeing Prince Humperdinck kick ass.
I was about to say, we had Humperdinck. What are you talking about? I spent half the movie trying to figure out who he was. I'm like, God, he looks familiar.
I actually didn't put that together till you guys just said that.
Yeah. And I mean, this movie, I don't think it did anything that really made it stand out. And at that point in the game, it really did need to stand out. And I thought it kind of just, I was like, who cares at this point?
Jesse, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page. I mean, I kind of like the storyline. You mixed in some kind of voodoo, dark magic stuff. It was fine. It gave it a reason for it to be a thing. But the guy that possessed the doll, like the Strangler or whatever, he just didn't seem like the type that would have been mixed in with that kind of magic. But they didn't really give too much of character development on him.
I agree.
I have a tough time. Yeah,
because he was a thug, right? Shoot out with the police, and he's just a thug in a trench coat, and or whatever his getup was, and all of a sudden he's just performing this ritualistic chant and possessing a doll. I don't think that does add up. I thought the storyline was stupid.
Yeah, I mean, overall, like the way that they kind of tied it together to make it make sense, it worked. Whatever, it was fine. My biggest issue with this movie was there was not a single point in time the entire movie where I was surprised or scared. Like I've seen these movies as a kid, and it never scared me as a kid. And if it wasn't going to scare me then, it's not going to scare me now. And it's a slasher. It's not really meant to be like, oh my God, I'm terrified to watch this movie. It's more fun than it is scary. But
that's us looking back at it retrospectively now that we've been desensitized by really good, really scary graphics. When these slasher movies first came out, like Halloween and the original Friday the 13th, people were really scared, and it went against the grain. It was an absolute counterculture movement, was the slasher genre, and they were rejected by the whole film industry. So it was a bigger deal back in the 80s, but by this point in 1988, it wasn't that big a deal.
Yeah. I thought for 1988, I thought some of the graphics were kind of cool as a positive, like some of the car crashes, some of the explosions, the babysitter getting thrown out the window, that looked real. There was a lot of stuff in this where they're blowing up buildings and stuff, and I was like, this is actually pretty cool. Like, they did a good job with the movie. It's just, I cannot for the life of me find any bit of this scary. And my other issue is every time he talked, when you just got this man voice screaming out of this little doll, it's just like, that's not terrifying. And I understand that's the spirit that's supposed to be haunting the doll, but when you just have him just screaming insults, it's like it just makes it even more goofy. So
Yeah, I agree.
big goofy factor with this movie. That was kind of my only thing. It wasn't bad. I'm glad I watched it again. It was fun. I didn't remember much of it from when I had seen it as a kid, but overall, I enjoyed watching the movie. It wasn't like some of the other horror movies that we watched where I'm like just checking the timer, like when is this thing gonna end? Like I still had a good time. It was pretty fun. Got a decent score for me.
I disagree with a lot of the stuff that you guys said. I think Brad Dourif as a voice actor bringing Chucky to life is, as the series progresses too, but even in this movie is like such a highlight of it. I think he's great. I think he really adds to the character. I think the doll, when it's actually like as Chucky talking to people and interacting, is terrifying looking. This little redheaded good guy doll that's making these like angry faces is pretty scary looking, especially for the 80s, whatever they did there. So there's some goofy stuff in here, don't get me wrong. I don't hate the black magic ritual that they do here, Jesse, to your point. I think it's a good explanation. I think the problem with it is, what I enjoyed the most about this movie was when they were building it up, like, is it the kid or is it the doll? They've already ruined that, right? Because he did this ritual, it's going to be the doll. I don't think you can play on that as much as you should have. It should have been played on more like, is it the kid or is it the doll that's doing these horrendous, crimes? And the other problem with that is going after Chucky's getaway driver, right? Like, well, now it's the doll, because how would this kid ever know who he was, where he was staying, or anything like that? That's my biggest problem with this movie. Is you had a good concept for the first movie, which you were never going to be able to do with any of these other movies going forward, because once that reveal's out there, that reveal's done. So you could have been relying on Andy as maybe Andy is the killer throughout the entire movie till the third act, and you kind of blew it on that. So that's my biggest problem with this movie.
I agree with you on that, actually, that they leaned into that where you didn't know, which, I mean, it's kind of crazy to, the kid was so young. Like, if it was an adult and that was the kind of the direction they were going, you wouldn't, you were trying to prove your own innocence. That could be interesting. But I agree with you that it was the most interesting part of the concept, and they definitely bungled it.
Yeah. So
I think kind of had to, though, because you had to have the kills and everything. And it could have been a different movie. That could have been a fun wrinkle. But I think they wanted to dive into the scenes where you have the doll actually killing people. So they had to pick one or pick the other. They chose to go with the doll killing people. And that's fine. That's what the movie was. You wanted the doll to be the villain. But could have been a different little movie there if they could have added that twist. But I think as you were getting to that point, I think that the actors did a great job. I thought the mother in this was great. I thought Lord Humperdinck did a great job of just straight up being like, come on, dude. Like, even when the mother figured it out, he's like, come on, it's not a doll. It's just like completely acting like a police officer should in that situation, which is brushing off crazy talk. And I thought there was a few good scenes in there with the mother trying to explain to him that this is legitimate. And I actually really like the scene where the dolls fell out of, the batteries fell out of the box.
Yes, that's a great,
because
great
then they
reveal.
realized that the doll had never had batteries. Unbelievably, that's one thing that I would have seen coming from a mile away, and I didn't. And probably should have seen it coming from a mile away because I've seen the movie before. But I was like, oh shit, that's actually a good little scene there. That was kind of cool.
It's a great reveal.
Yeah, it was. So I thought overall, like the build up to that, I was fine with it. Again, some really good acting, some good scenes there. I thought
I got to push back on really good acting. I thought Chris Sarandon was fine, but I thought for the most part you had typical corny 80s acting. And now I don't think that's a negative for the movie, but it definitely for me didn't help it. Whereas I already found it to be not particularly scary.
Right. I mean, I actually didn't like what was it, Brad as the voice?
I thought it was a terrible performance for voice acting.
I thought it was garbage, but I thought all the other main characters were great. I thought the kid was fine. He was just fine. I mean, he's a young kid, so you're only gonna get so much out of him. But I thought the mother, I thought the cop was great, and I thought the acting was fine. And then when he was the strangler, when he was alive, that was corny as shit too. Like the whole opening of this movie, I'm like, here we go.
Yeah,
not great.
I do not agree at all with I think Brad Dourif is amazing in this movie. I think he gets better as the series goes on. I think he's perfect at it, and I think that's part of the trouble with the remake that they tried to do. They get my favorite voice actor to replace Brad Dourif, and I don't think that Mark Hamill even held a candle to him. But that's a whole nother conversation for another day.
I think before we get off this with Brad Dourif on the voice acting, I thought that, first of all, I thought it was extremely cheesy, and I rolled my eyes every time Chucky talked. I think Chucky would have been a lot creepier and scarier if they gave him a sing-songy child's voice. That would have been creepy.
Wouldn't have made sense really with the
But you
storyline.
get this,
But if you had it,
guy, it's like he sounds like a fucking drunk guy at a bar. It's like this is stupid.
I agree with you, Dave.
I think you guys are wrong on this one.
Maybe I'll have to rewatch the other ones. I'm sure we'll get to them eventually. But for this movie, which we're reviewing this movie, you cannot sit here and tell me that wasn't corny as fuck every time you open his mouth.
As
I liked it.
Fuck.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it.
We don't believe you. We think you're a liar.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the Child's Play movies for the most part. I
100% believe Rob.
I enjoyed.
That's the problem. Yeah.
Rob likes ketchup on fucking breakfast sausages. He has the palate of a child. I am not blown away that he thought that performance was good.
It's fine. He's good. He is iconic, and this was the start of it.
Sure. When's the last time you had chicken fingers?
I actually don't know when the last time I had chicken fingers is.
I mean, it was either today or yesterday, you child.
I had chicken wings today.
Rob tried telling me that chicken breast is better than chicken thighs. It's like, dude, shut the fuck up.
It is, actually.
Yeah, okay.
I completely agree with Rob here. I'm sorry.
I
love chicken breast, bro. I'm sorry. I really wanted to be on your side on every argument here, but I'm not. Yeah.
I'll go boil a piece of wood for you. You can chew on that. Chicken breast sucks.
I have no problem with boiled wood either.
We know.
This is not taking the turn that I thought it would. All right.
Well, anyways, I want to go back to Lord Humperdinck as the detective. I actually think he was fine. I thought he played the part well. I think the part was miscast, though. To me, that part should have been an old grizzled detective. Like, I just feel like an old grizzled detective would have played that so much better. Like, because he's seen some shit and he's like, I don't believe this is a doll. Like, I'm not going over this. If you're gonna do young, I felt like there should have been more like a romance angle with the.
There was a little bit. Yeah, I think they had a history. They knew each other. I think they had alluded to it. They definitely didn't develop it, so that it was completely pointless. But
I just felt like an old grizzled detective would have been like more enjoyable on screen for that. And I don't think he played the role badly at all. It's not that he didn't act well. I felt like a guy 20 years older should have been.
Felt cheap. I think one of my issues as the movie continued on was not enough key players died in this movie. I think you absolutely could have killed off the detective, could have killed off the mother. It would have made a much more dark movie, and let the boy live or not. But they missed the mark on that. Not enough kills.
Yeah, I think my other biggest problem with this movie is I thought they did a poor job establishing rules with Chucky. And I think that's a very important thing to do when you have a character like this. Like, we need to understand what his strength limitations are and stuff like that. And the worst scene in this entire movie is at the very end when he's attacking the other detective that walks into the room and he can't get him off of him, but the mother just walks over and basically just flicks him off at the end. So there's no consistency there. Like, is he easy to move or is he not easy to move?
That was another one where 100% they should have killed that other detective, because then there's no one there to corroborate the story. And then it's like, are you crazy people who just got in a fight in this apartment?
Right.
Why did they let him live? It's just there's so many characters that they could have killed off in this movie to make it more dark and not such a okay ending. Now, I will say, as we get into the ending, once Chucky was burned, I actually found that doll awesome. I thought the burned version of Chucky was terrifying looking. It made everything scary. I thought that as they were dismembering him, rather than him just kind of instructing the torso to kill or whatever, I thought it should have been kind of like scarecrowing himself back together or something like that. And it was just, there was too many moments of them, that classic, put it out of its misery before it's too late. And they just, they'll knock him down and then they'll all hug on the floor together, and then he gets back up. It's like, dude, you got to fix the problem here before you start hugging it out. You know, drives me crazy in movies, but it happens all the time.
Well, especially when they went to the the voodoo priest, and he specifically tells them the heart is how to kill him or something like that, and they know this. And to your point, Jesse, they go for the hug. So like, yeah, that's a problem. Like, finish it the way you were told by the guy who knows what the hell's going on, right? Like and they don't do that. So I agree with you on that point.
The whole voodoo curse thing was so stupid, and that was such a stupid exposition dump, and it just didn't fit. It just didn't feel right, and it was dumb. I almost would have liked it better if they didn't give any explanation as to why the doll came to life. That would be scarier for me. It would have been, and also kind of funny. I think I would have liked that better.
Well, that would have established like the whole thing that we said in the beginning with, is it the kid, is it the doll, right? Like, it would have helped set that up a little bit better. So I agree with you to that extent. I'm not like, I don't care about the voodoo thing. I think it's fine. It gives a reason for like why he's coming after the kid, because he's trying to, repossess his body so that he doesn't get stuck in this doll forever. Like, so it gives him the reason to continue to go after, a victim in that respect. So fine with it from that aspect, but I do think the movie was blown a little bit from that. But Jesse, you brought up some of the best parts. Like, the kills are actually really good in this overall. Like, that falling scene from the top of the building onto the car, really graphic, really well done. Some of the other kills are really well done. It needed a little bit more, is what I would say, to your point. Like, maybe we're missing one kill or two kills here.
It wasn't necessarily about like this movie didn't have enough kills, because if you have meaningful kills, then you don't need to just a massive body count.
That's a good point.
So, but there's nobody meaningful in the movie died other than maybe the aunt, which I think was the first kill. And I kind of like the way that kill came about, because he came out and he's like, "Hey, Chucky wants to watch the news," which is ridiculous. And I like that. It almost like he kind of almost gave her a pass. Like, he's like, "All right, fuck it. I'm going to walk out and watch the news myself." He went out and sat on the chair, turned on the news, and then she came out, and obviously she thought the kid was messing with her there. And it was at this moment that she disrespected the doll. Not just that she didn't let him watch the news, but the way she carried the doll. She kind of just picked it up by the hand and kind of whipped him down the hallway and just walked with him. And I was like, oh, you fucked up, because the way you carried that doll. And I think that's what pissed him off, and that's what triggered that first kill. Would he have gone on a killing spree anyways? Probably. That seemed to be his thing anyways. But it seemed like that was the moment that sealed her fate there, and I did enjoy that.
That's a pretty interesting breakdown of that scene. I hadn't thought that much into it, but I like it. Yeah,
really well done, Jesse. I think overall it's a solid move. Like, it's not even my favorite in the series by any means, but I think it does a good enough job of establishing the series, and they're going to build off of it better. But for this particular movie, definitely some swings and misses. Definitely some stuff that I like. I think the character design's good. I like the voice acting. I think the kid's actually fine for the most part. I do love that particular kid. God, his name's escaping me right now. The actor,
Alex Vincent. Oh, sorry.
Alex Vincent. Yeah. Alex Vincent comes back. He's still doing Chucky projects to this day, right? So he's been in the TV show. I think there was only one time that he didn't play Andy, which was part 3, just because they wanted to age the character up a little bit. But yeah, Alex Vincent is a big part of this, and I do like that about this series, where they are very committed to the people that have been in these movies, and they tie them all together. They continue to show up throughout different movies, so I like that as well.
I understand why he really leans into the Chucky role, because it's literally all he's done his whole career. A couple of random things here and there, but for the most part, his IMDb is all just Chucky and things related to Chucky.
Hey man, sometimes that's all you need. The dude that played the first.
I'm not knocking him for it. I'm just pointing it out. That's pretty much it.
The dude that played Jason Voorhees the first time, that jumped out of the lake, he's made an entire career off of it. He goes to conventions and signs autographs, and his entire life has been from that one role.
Yep. Cheerleader girl from Scream.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. She does that. We know. But overall, maybe just because I'm a grown man watching it, but I just couldn't find it creepy. But I understand that kids find it creepy. So we were at Halloween Horror Nights, I think 2 years ago, and the theme was Chucky. And they had, I mean, they also had a bunch of other themes going on, but they had a whole section of Halloween Horror Nights as like booths that were selling the dolls and just all these different, what is it, the good guy dolls or whatever. Like they had all these different things set up for it. And I was like, this actually is pretty creepy. And my kids are walking through like, what is this?
Yeah.
So, but they understood it was Halloween season down at Universal. So they kind of got the gist that everything was horror related. But I was like, okay, I can understand why kids would be creeped out by this. But I just remember seeing it as a kid. I'm like, this is stupid.
So I saw it, I think I was 4 or 5 the first time I saw a Child's Play. And I think the first one I saw was Child's Play 2, not this one. And spoiler alert, I have to rewatch it, but I think Child's Play 2 is the best in the series, and the scariest by all accounts. And as a kid, I would think about it, and I remember one specific instance waiting for my mother or my father outside of a car, and just like hearing a little pitter patter from somewhere, and I was like, I really hope that's not Chucky running up to this car. I'm, because I'm 4 years old and I'm watching these movies I shouldn't.
Yeah, no, I understand that. Yeah, at a certain age, it should creep you out, no matter what it is. And this was a glaring reminder. Now, mind you, I like the movie Megan, but this is a glaring reminder of how much an absolute ripoff the movie Megan is to Chucky. Oh boy! But again, you can go back and listen to our review on that. I actually did thoroughly have a good time watching Megan as well.
You know what's going to be interesting is when we review the remake of Child's Play, because have you guys seen it?
I definitely didn't watch it.
I think you guys are going to actually like the remake a lot of Child's Play. I don't love it personally. I just think it's one of those movies. We'll get to it then, but I just think it shouldn't have had the Child's Play name. I don't think it's a bad movie, but I think you two are going to like the route that they go with it, is what I will say when we get to it.
Maybe. Bring it back to Megan really quick, because there obviously is a parallel between the two movies. I also enjoyed Megan, but I had the same issue with Megan as I had with Child's Play, and that was it's not scary. Like, it's goofy.
Now, mind you, I don't remember what my rating is on Megan. I think this is a better movie than Megan, but I found moments in Megan where, had they had that R rating and some more graphic kills, there were more tense moments in Megan than I found that there were in this movie. Right. Overall, I do think this is a better movie than Megan.
That's not exactly what I was saying. I say my issue with Megan, and I agree, if it had the R rating, had more kills, it would have been creepy. But Megan also didn't have that stupid voice. My issue was like, it looked goofy when she was doing the kills. Like, it just didn't look right, because it was like this little doll thing. And it's just
especially that one scene. Again, this is not a Megan review, but that one scene where she got down on all fours and started running. That should have, like, in concept, if you think about that, that's terrifying to think about that. But it just wasn't executed on screen. It was so goofy.
Well, I mean, we know that too, though. Like, sometimes you think of something and in your head, it just sounds like a great idea, and then you see it, but you know enough to scrap it, right? Like, sometimes you just gotta be like,
yeah,
sounded great.
It's like our Paramount Plus video, but we didn't scrap it.
Everybody loves that video. Everyone but Jesse. Do we want to get into some ratings for this?
I say we do it.
All right. I'm going to give it a 4 even for myself. I like the kills. I like the concept. I think it's mostly well executed. I've kind of hit on all my negatives. Some of my things that I think they could have done better on this, but I think it's a great start to a franchise. I think they establish building blocks while stumbling a little, and we have some ups and some downs to go with this franchise, but I think this is a solid 4.
In a twist that I didn't see coming, I had this at a 4 too. I actually think it was
a 4.2 or a 4 as well.
4.2. Yeah, I have it higher than Rob. I wasn't expecting that to happen. But overall, I enjoyed the movie from start to finish. I wasn't kidding about that. Was I scared? No, but it's not really a movie that you're really supposed to be scared at, I think, at this age that I'm at now, which is 21 years old. So as a child, maybe I watched it at 8 or 9 years old. Maybe I was a little too old to be actually creeped out by it, but the voice took me out of it. Again, iconic voice actor, not taking anything away from him. Don't come for me, YouTube comments, but I think they will. But I thought overall, it was a fun movie. I had a lot of fun watching the movie. And also, I was actually, as much as I found it corny, I was actually impressed by the animatronics in the face. Yeah. I thought it was going to be 1988 animatronics in a face with this thing talking with as much dialogue as he had. I was like, oh, that actually looks like he's really saying those words. So I was actually pretty impressed with that.
Yeah, it was one of my positives also was the some of the effects were pretty good for not only the time, but also the budget they had. This was only a $9 million budget, which I know in 1988 was probably more like 20 million. But for that, with the explosions and everything, I thought it was pretty, for that budget, I thought it was pretty well done as far as effects go. And some of the kills were pretty cool. I have this at a 2.9, and it's just, the doll doesn't scare me. I'm not a fan of the voice actor in this. I'm not a fan of the optics of any doll being violent. Dolls can be creepy and scary for sure, but as soon as they turn to physical violence, it's just goofy and it's just bad optics, in my opinion. It's never going to work for me.
It's always that punted across the room scenario.
Right.
Like, how many times do I have to punt this thing out the window? It's going to keep coming back. Yeah, I agree with you there. The scene where he was underneath the car, like stabbing with the knife. I was like, all right, that's kind of cool because he can get into a small space and do that. But that scene was dragged out way too long in that scene. But anyways,
that scene had me like uncomfortable. I was like, oh God.
Yeah, because it's just, Did he cut the brake lines, or why didn't he hit the goddamn brakes then in that situation? He just refused. Oh, because Chucky was holding down the gas.
Right.
Too long. Too
much.
much.
That might have dragged on a little bit too long.
Yep.
But for all the negatives that I already said, and just mostly the optics, I think that if this movie came out in 1980 as opposed to 1988, and it beat all the Friday the 13th movies, and it came out before all of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, I think it probably would have been held in higher regard, because I think that really would have shocked people. But by the time this movie came out, everybody was already desensitized and starting to get sick of the slasher genre.
All right, YouTube, I want you to look at me real quick. Podcast listeners, listen. Dave and Jesse are the ones that think that Brad Dourif's voice is not good for this movie. So I want you to come after them. Please leave comments letting them know that they're wrong. Please let them know that I am right, that he's great in this role.
Keep in mind that Rob gave this the second lowest rating.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Saving my own ass here, Rob.
I don't know how you can not like the voice and still give it a 4.2 personally, but
I publicly bashed the original Halloween. I'm not afraid of the Child's Play crowd.
Well, you should be, because they're going to come for you, and they're going to come.
Yeah, they're going to bite your ankles.
Yeah, I mean, that one point, I really wish that they would keep it to him being small and like elusive more so, and then being handled. There's no
way to not make it goofy.
I don't know. I think there's some scenes that are pretty good. And then it becomes what every horror franchise becomes, right? Where it just becomes a parody of itself later.
Just beating it, yeah, exactly.
But some of the scenes that they do with Chucky is good throughout the franchise. Anyways, we've got our scores. I want to know what your score is. Let us know in the comments. Shoot us. Jump in the Discord. Jump in the horror movie Discord. Start leaving your review scores for these movies. Let us know which one of us is right, which one of us is wrong. Let us know in the comments. Shoot us an email, whatever you want to do. But for now, it's been myself, Rob Coakley, along with Dave and Jesse Wilkins. We'll catch you next time. Peace.